Get your day started the right way with Good Day Tampa Bay.
Storm is now in the middle of the Gulf as it heads towards Florida's west coast, when it's now expected to reach our area as evacuations ramp up. And good morning, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Laura Moody.
And I'm Russell Rhodes. Thanks for being here. We're going to check in with Dave and Jen in just a bit. But first, Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkhardt is here with us in the newsroom this morning as Hurricane Milton approaches our area. Thanks for being here. I know you got a lot going on, so thanks for taking time. What's your message to all of us this morning?
Well, yeah, it's good morning, and we have 1,000 police officers here working today to help our evacuations. And the message is, you just heard the governor say it, is take heed to that warning and evacuate. And we see people doing it on the interstates and on the roadways, and that gives us great sense of comfort that people actually are taking those evacuation warnings seriously. But there are others that are not. I met an individual on Davis Islands that flooded just 2 weeks ago, and he didn't want to leave. So we're following up on those people, and we're putting all our resources there. But everybody needs to know, if they choose to stay in that evacuation zone during those peak times, I'm not going to be able to send our officers out there to keep people safe. So we want everybody to take heed to those warnings. And you mentioned earlier, Russell, about the gas. I did see them actually refueling many of those gas stations actually early this morning.
Good, good, good.
What makes this different is it's not just Zone A, and for people that are living in that zone, hopefully they've gotten the message. But what makes this storm different is you're seeing evacuation zones B and C now being told to get out. How is this changing things for you guys?
Well, just look at the last storm. Look at Helene.
Right.
We had 7 to 8 feet of storm surge, and we're expecting up to 15 feet of storm surge. That's double the size. I was standing out on Davis Island, and where I was there filming, the water was going to be over me. So that water is going to cause catastrophic damage. Lives will be lost, but we want people to take heed to that warning and evacuate now.
Chief, I think another thing the governor was saying, and I'm sure you can probably reiterate this, there's still time. We've still got time to get out.
We do, and that's what we're doing today. 1,000 police officers are out there doing different duties and jobs, and many of them will be evacuating. They'll be going door to door in some of the low-lying areas. So if there's any way we can help or assist to provide transportation, we are doing that. We're also manning the shelters to keep people safe. So whatever we can do to help to save lives, that's our goal.
For the people that live in evacuation zone C and beyond who are staying, what's your advice to them?
If they're staying in an evacuation zone, they're on their own. But if they're going to stay in an evacuation zone that is not in that area, you know, that's something that they'll have to weigh those pros and cons. But if they're in level A or zone A and zone B, they need to evacuate.
And you've made it very clear that this storm is very different. This is going to be a wind event, a rain event, and a massive storm surge. So you're not going to be able to do the kind of rescues that you were doing with Helene in the overnight hours. We're looking at a late night hit with this storm as well.
No, absolutely. And we did make attempts during the storm in Helene to make rescues, but we're not even going to be able to do that at this time. So when that storm surge is up, when the winds are up, we're going to have to hunker down and keep our officers safe. So then after the storm, we can come and help with the recovery efforts.
Chief, I know that you would encourage people when they're evacuating to hopefully go stay with family, friends, farther away from the storm. But there are shelters too. I mean, I know people don't want to go to shelters, but they may have to, and they're open and ready, right?
They are. Go to our website, tampa.gov/hurricane, or the Hillsborough County website. You'll see those shelters. There'll be police officers at those shelters to keep everybody safe. But obviously, if you have family or friends, that is the ideal place to go.
Hey, Chief, before we let you go, I know we have to, can you talk a little bit about electric cars and folks being able to use city garages if they need to park their cars on higher ground?
Absolutely, and we've seen what the damage of those electric cars can do in the storm. We saw several houses that were burnt down. The city has provided free access to their parking garage to safely put your cars there. So take heed to that, bring those cars there, and maybe we'll prevent some houses from getting burnt down.
Good. Hey, Chief, thank you, as always.
Yes.
We'll be with you through this. Let us know if we can do anything, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get over to Dave now. And you made a good point in the meeting yesterday, Dave. It's not water that has caused the explosions with these cars. It's the salt water. Yeah. So if they're elevated at the third level and above, which is what they've been ordered to do, park there, they'll still be okay, right?
I hope. I don't know much about electric cars, but
Well,
I'm
I don't want to
hoping.
put that on. I'm sorry.
No, I don't. I'll tell you what, I want to go back to 5 a.m. The Hurricane Center kind of puts out their discussion, their new track and stuff, and not much has changed, but there are a few little subtle differences. Number one, this is an exact quote from the Hurricane Center. There's a high confidence that Milton will be extremely dangerous hurricane at landfall. It is projected to be a Category 3 storm at landfall with winds of 125 miles per hour. The landfall may be a little bit later, based on this modeling now, more late Wednesday night, or maybe just past midnight going into Thursday morning. So about a day and a half ago, it looked like this would be sort of a Wednesday during the day event. No, this is going to be a night event after the sun goes down and into the wee early morning hours of Thursday. Milton's wind field is going to double on its approach to the state, meaning right now tropical storm force winds go 100 miles out from the center of the storm. By the time it reaches our state, they may go out closer to 200, meaning the storm grows larger. And wherever the storm makes landfall, and just to the south of that, is where we expect that 10 to 15 foot storm surge. The eye is going to clear out, I think, in a few hours. We get a new eye from that eye wall replacement cycle. The 8 o'clock advisory is in. You don't get any track changes or anything like that with the 8 o'clock. It's more just like, okay, coordinates, pressure, distance to Tampa kind of thing. So 545 miles southwest of Tampa, winds of 145 miles per hour, making landfall very early on Thursday morning and then moving across the state. Hurricane warnings are now out for not only the west coast of Florida, but the east coast of Florida as well, as they anticipate hurricane force winds right along I-95. So you can see where the worst stretch of weather is going to be in that particular area. And that's going to be, once again, late tomorrow night, and early on Thursday morning before the sun comes up. And on and where to the storm makes landfall to the south, you'll have that 10 to 15 foot storm surge. Today, just some showers around, especially during the afternoon, and I want to toss it over to Jen now. And Valerie's with me. We'll come back, and the two of us will do a little bit more in just a few minutes.
And I'm hearing the word eerie being used a lot this morning. People out on the roads. Not a whole lot of people out on the roads, but those that are out are saying they're not seeing a whole lot of rush hour traffic. We're not dealing with that this morning. What we are seeing is most likely evacuation traffic. That includes eastbound along I-4. This is approaching County Road 532, but the delays are through Polk County, right around County Line Road along the eastbound side, which is unusual for a typical rush hour drive. We've been tracking northbound traffic along I-75. It is slow and steady. It's been like that since the start of Good Day Tampa Bay as drivers are exiting out of the Bay Area northbound along I-75. This is in the area of State Road 54. It stays pretty consistently heavy along I-75 from Bursby Downs Boulevard as you head farther north. A live look outside along the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. All the bridges are open, operating normally. They will shut down the Sunshine Skyway Bridge once sustained winds hit around 40 miles per hour. So just keep that in mind. Do you want to remind drivers that if you're accessing any of the toll roads, tolls have been suspended by the order of the governor, which is great if you're trying to use the Selman Expressway, I-275 over the Sunshine Skyway to exit out of the Bay Area. Do want to remind drivers you can use the emergency shoulder. It's kind of weird to see on the traffic cameras, but that is the case eastbound along I-4 from I-75 to Champions Gate. The emergency shoulder also being used northbound along I-75 from I-4 to I-10. Russell, Laura?
All right, John, thank you. Well, mandatory evacuation orders are in effect for thousands of people up and down our coast, and a lot of people are not taking their chances and are getting themselves and their families out of harm's way.
Yeah, but getting out isn't always easy, especially the longer you wait. The clogged roads, the gas shortages, and airport closures are making evacuating tricky now. Fox 13's Kelly Cowan is on the story for us. She joins us from Tampa International Airport. Kelly, final flights are taking off right now. We're looking at maybe another 45 minutes.
That's right. It is eerily quiet here on the terminal side of things. So they are getting ready to shut down Tampa International Airport. And as you said, about 45 minutes from now, 9 o'clock, the official closure of this airport. And it's going to remain closed throughout the entirety of the storm. And then whatever damages they end up assessing could really impact when they open back up again. So no set timetable on that. But we know that this is one of several area airports that will be closing either today or tomorrow. So again, Tampa International officially closes at 9 this morning. PIE in Clearwater says it's going to close after its final flights today. Sarasota International, they're closing at 4 this afternoon, and Orlando International plans to close at 8 tomorrow morning. Now, many leaving right now tell us that Helene was a big eye-opener for them. They don't want to risk staying with an even greater storm surge potential in the forecast. But for one woman that we met here at the airport, her evacuation plans became even more difficult when she had to factor in her pet rabbit.
Well, this is a Cat 4, Cat 3, Cat 4 coming towards us, yeah. And after Helene, I really felt the need to evacuate. I'm alone in my home with my bunny. My bird is safe somewhere. And, yeah, I felt the need to dodge the bullet, so to speak.
Now, unfortunately, Cammie found out when she got to the airport that her airline, Delta, would not let her fly with her bunny. So she's actually headed back home to shelter there with her rabbit. If you do plan on flying with a pet, just be sure to check ahead with your airline so that you know exactly whether or not you're going to be allowed to bring that pet on board. Also, keep in mind that there are plenty of pet-friendly shelters in our area if you need one. So those are easy to look up on your county's website, or you can head to disaster.org or our website, fox13.news, to figure out where you should go within the next day or two. You need to make those plans and solidify that, especially if you are planning to bring a pet or multiple pets. But we've heard from many shelters that they are extremely animal friendly. They don't want to turn anyone away. The biggest thing is that they want you to come there and make sure that you're protecting your life, and they will take your pet. We've even heard from one shelter in Pasco. They told me that they allowed a pet possum once. So they really don't want anybody using that as an excuse to stay in an unsafe situation. As I mentioned, Tampa International Airport, they're going to be doing damage assessments after the storm goes through. And at that point, depending on the damages, they'll make an announcement later on about whether or not or when they should be reopening. And again, if you feel like this is going to impact your travel plans maybe later in the week, check with your airline.
This is a massive operation. You understand why they're having to move as quickly as possible, as early as possible. All right, Kelly Cowan, live for us at TPA this morning. Kelly, thank you. All right, still ahead, our hurricane coverage continues inland. We're going to check in with Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd.
And keeping the water running, what the city of Tampa is telling people as rumors of a water shutoff ahead of Milton's landfall turns out to be only fake news.
Fox 13's Prime Time is sponsored locally by Optimum Healthcare Medicare Advantage plans. You're watching Good Day Tampa Bay.
Welcome back. Along the Gulf Coast, communities are expecting devastating impacts from this storm. And as Dave mentioned, inland areas like Polk County also expected to be lashed by hurricane-force winds and heavy rain. Let's get to Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. Talking to him about all this. Sheriff, good morning.
Good morning, Russell. How are you doing today?
We're good. We're trying. We're doing the best we can. This is a big storm. You guys are going to feel this, aren't you?
Yeah, it's squared up on all of us in Central Florida, and we're all going to feel it. There's going to be strong winds. There's going to be a lot of rain. We have a lot of low-lying area. We're telling people, please evacuate. Please, please, please evacuate if your home is not secure. And they know the evacuation zones here as well. If they don't, I'm warning everyone, don't think if you get scared in the middle of the storm, you can dial 911 and we'll do a high water rescue. You're on your own at that point because we're not rescuing anybody that gets scared and decides during the storm they want to leave. Prepare your house now. If you need to leave, leave now.
Well, and as we've been hearing from the governor and then the Tampa Police Chief just a few minutes ago, you've still got time to do this. We're talking midnight tomorrow night that we're going to have
You're exactly right, Russell. Today's going to be a good day. Tomorrow it's not going to start deteriorating until the afternoon. So tie down your house. Get everything in line. Don't think this storm's going to miss us because it's not. If you notice, the Weather Service has been really, really good the closer we get to the storm. So it's going to be devastating for our friends on the coast, and our heart breaks for them. We also know it's going to be devastating inland as well.
You know, Sheriff, we've had a lot of folks move here move into the Tampa Bay area, move into Polk County in the last few years that have not gone through a storm. And just because Polk County's in the middle of the state, they need to know you guys get a storm. I mean, the year of Charlie, you had 3 storms, right?
We had 3 storms in 9 weeks and had not had a storm before 2004 since 1961. So this is real. You know, this is game on. And we're telling everyone you've got to prepare. And then after the fact, if there's a tree down in your yard, if there's a tree down in your road, don't call us to remove it. Get with your friends, get out your chainsaws and cut the tree down. We're going to go to the worst areas first. We're going to get the major roads open so we can get emergency services to you. But we have to work together as neighbors. We have to look out for each other. There's never going to be enough federal, state, or local resources to get to you immediately on non-emergency events. And listen, we're resilient. We've done this before. We'll survive it again, but there's going to be a lot of damage, and working with your neighbors is important.
We just saw on the screen, and maybe they can put them back up for me, the shelters that you have in Polk County. And I know that they are a last resort. If you can't get away, if you can't go stay with family or friends, you do have shelters. They are open, and people can stay there. Yes.
Absolutely. There's 19 shelters. Some of them are pet friendly. And we also have special needs shelters. And it's not just for the people of Polk County, it's for anyone that needs to get away from where they are when they're not safe. But you need to come early, and you need to process in so that we can take care of you. Our goal is to keep you safe. Our goal is to help you in the aftermath. But the reality is that this is a time when everyone has to be a first responder. Everyone has to look out for each other. So if you sit home and say, well, we've got a tree down on my neighborhood street, can you come move it? Maybe, but not today, because we're working on the most serious, significant locations and events. Get with your neighbor, work together, help us all be safe.
Sheriff Grady Judd, always great to talk to you. Take care over there. We love you. We'll be in touch, okay?
Love you guys. Be safe. God bless you.
You too. Bye. Hey, Dave.
Brought in the A-team this morning. Valerie's here. I had to call her in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to sit here. We're going to dissect this storm from the satellite down to what we can anticipate here over the next couple of days. So, go ahead.
Yeah, and, you know, we have seen some changes as far as our satellite from this time, you know, yesterday. We had a really small but defined eye, a pinhole eye wall, when we get that really, really tiny center of circulation. We've kind of lost that overnight as this storm is undergoing an eye wall replacement. That is something that we do typically see with these stronger storms. So as we look back at our enhanced satellite loop, I mean, very impressive. You can see all of that deep convection wrapping around that main center of circulation, but we've kind of lost the view of that here, and we're starting to see an eye wall clearing out. So this is something very typical that we see with these storms, and it will kind of fluctuate the overall strength and the wind speed, which is kind of exactly what we have seen. But we've got several Hurricane Hunter flights that are en route, and we have more going out today. So we continue to get more information, and that will continue to feed into any small adjustments to the track, because as we've been saying, these small differences make a big impact in where we are talking about the landfall. And really, the devil is in the details with this one, as we are expecting a very tight core, but some very strong winds and very dangerous storm surge right along and to the south of where that eye wall comes on shore. So there's our look at the 8 o'clock advisory. Right now, Milton still about 550 miles southwest of Tampa, still at that Category 4 strength, 145 mile per hour winds. But this storm starting to pick up a little bit of forward speed. So we expect it to start to take that pull to the north and east in between a trough and our typical ridge out Park to the east. And so this is going to continue to head towards the west coast. But notice that weakening trend that we expect. So this likely is going to be still a major hurricane as it makes landfall. But we are really hoping in those environmental factors to influence this storm and kind of cause it to at least weaken just a bit on approach to that landfall. Here's our latest look at all of our model plots. Those have really been coming more in line with each other. We still have that spread with some of those on the north side of Tampa Bay, some on the south side of Tampa Bay, and those are going to just be those really important factors as the storm gets closer to us and we narrow in on exactly where that point of landfall will be. But I mentioned to you some of those unfavorable conditions the storm is running into. You can see all of that stronger shear over the state. So we really hope that that's going to continue to kind of cause some disruption to the storm as it gets closer to our coast. But there's our latest look at all of our watches and warnings, a good chunk of the Sunshine State as we've seen those extended off to the East Coast. Dave, going to join me in now with more of our expected impacts.
Yeah, this was just changed, by the way. The 8 o'clock advisory, they made hurricane warnings for the east coast of our state. It's going to come straight across, and that's why. We don't have that thick state. It's not that wide. So in general, look at the threat right along, really along 75 and west. You've got a threat of those 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts with maybe hurricane-force wind gusts inland from there. The tide's on the map. And you're seeing a high tide at 3:37 on Thursday morning in Clearwater, Tampa Bay, a high tide at about 6:51. So I think the tide is going to be right at low or starting to come back in when it makes landfall. Now, assuming that these numbers verify, this is what it would look like, again, if you had a 10 to 15-foot storm surge. I mean, look at all of these barrier islands, most of the Tampa Bay area as well. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this one more time because I want to go a little bit slower. And you can see this is what a 10 to 15-foot inundation would be. Here's South Tampa. There's McDill, you know, covered in water there over toward Gibsonton, all those particular spots. Claremelle, I mean, this is if the 10 to 15-foot storm surge verifies. At landfall, wherever the storm makes landfall, maybe 20, 30 miles south, that whole stretch will experience that 10 to 15-foot storm surge. And looking at the Charlotte Harbor, this thing can make landfall in the Tampa Bay area or Sarasota, and you're still looking at, look at the water going up the Peace River. Look at the water levels. So the surge is going to encompass the entire west coast of Florida, no matter where it comes on shore. Huge excessive rain outlook. I do want to mention this because we haven't talked a lot about the rain, but overall looking at about 5 to 10 inches of rain with some higher amounts to the north. So 5 to 10 inches of rain. You're going to get 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts along the coast and the 10 to 15-foot storm surge where it comes along. Today, some clouds and some showers, but nothing significant. Weather starts to go downhill, especially tomorrow afternoon. It's out of here Thursday morning, and the weekend looks okay.
Next live, the star of Abbott Elementary, Quinta Brunson, and American Sports Stories, Josh Rivera.
Kelly and Mark, today at 10 on Fox 13.
Get your day started the right way with Good Day Tampa Bay.
Welcome back to 8:30. This morning, barrier islands in Pinellas County are only open to residents, business owners, and debris operators and rideshare drivers, helping people get out.
Yeah, but by 7 p.m. tonight, the barrier islands will close to everyone. Meanwhile, FEMA Administrator Deanna Criswell and St. Pete Mayor Ken Welsh met last night. They are in touch with the White House right now to make sure disaster aid resources are in place and ready to go when necessary. That includes moving thousands of pounds of food and water here, along with search and rescue teams. Army Corps of Engineers have also been mobilized now. Criswell also responded to questions about misinformation going around, saying that FEMA does not have enough money or resources for hurricane recovery efforts. From Milton, here's her response to that.
I have plenty of funding to support the ongoing efforts for Hurricane Helene and the preparatory efforts and the initial response efforts for Hurricane Milton. And so nobody needs to worry about us not having enough money to support that, and no money has been given to any other department or agency from this fund. It is purely dedicated to support the life-saving needs that we need to do, and that's what we're going to do.
Mandatory evacuations, as we've been saying all morning, are in effect in Pinellas County for zones A, B, and C, and any mobile or manufactured home. That's more than 500,000 people and more than half of Pinellas County. Let's get to David Connor with Pinellas County Emergency Operations joining us live. David, thanks for being back with us again this morning.
Of course. Good morning.
This is tough for Zone A. For a lot of these people, they're already out of their house and moved out. But this is a storm problem now for B and C too.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing with our field outreach teams is that those folks who were impacted by Hurricane Helene, they're leaving. What we're focusing on today is really the rest of those folks in Zone A who didn't get Helene impacts, as well as those zones B, C, and mobile home parks, because we want them to understand this is not going to be just a slightly worse version of Hurricane Helene. This is going to be some really high, dangerous winds and substantially more storm surge when it impacts our area. So folks in those ordered zones really need to take seriously leaving, and they have about 24 hours to get to wherever their safe space is.
Yeah, we have time, but not much, even as it stands right now. Helene, and it's almost hard to believe this, but it was really a huge test for our area, a precursor of what we're about to see with Milton. Do you think people are paying attention a little more now than they would be otherwise?
I hope so. We've definitely been hearing that, but what I think is important is not just the people who are already watching your show or already logged into social media, but their neighbors and their families who might not be getting information. And so one thing we're also asking people to do is talk to your neighbors. Look across the street, say, hey, do you see the storm that's coming in? What's your plan? What are you doing? Are you getting out of here? Anything we can do to help you. We have to look out for each other and make sure that everybody in the county has the information they need to protect themselves.
All right, let's say for people in evacuation and flood zones D, E, F, and for those people that are staying, what's your advice to them?
I want to try to paint a picture of what life might look like in the weeks after this storm. We already expect, and we saw with Helene, that we will have long and protracted and widespread power outages. We also know that some areas around the county, I believe St. Pete announced it today, they're going to be suspending their sewage water service. So your toilets won't work, your tub might not drain. We do not have any plans to shut off potable water service to the areas of the county that we serve. There was a rumor about that. It is not true. But there's also always a possibility that service could be disrupted by the storm impact. We've already seen the gas outages at a lot of the stations around the county, and we anticipate that if we do get that direct hit, that worst case scenario, it's going to be hard to get supplies here for a little while. So we want everybody to take that into account when they're making their own evacuation plan for their household.
It is comforting or disconcerting, however you want to look at it, that FEMA is already in place ahead of a storm. I'm not sure I've ever seen that.
Yeah, this is an interesting storm because we've already been on the phone and in personal meetings and here at the Emergency Operations Center in Largo with all the partners that we would work with to prepare for and respond to a storm. So for our folks here at the Emergency Management Complex, we just haven't stopped. We just rolled into this new storm preparation. Nobody wants to be in this situation. None of us, no resident wants to be in this situation. But I am grateful that we are already having the conversations and we've already established the partnerships that are going to help us weather and recover from this next storm.
And it seems like people are getting the message. Let's just talk rescues, obviously halted. Barrier islands, access to that will be closed off, obviously, again. But what about the debris?
Yeah, there's a lot of people working on this issue of debris, all the way from the Florida Department of Emergency Management, Department of Transportation, the Florida National Guard, our municipal partners. We actually trained our own public works crews to go out and try to pick up this debris, which was not one of their typical jobs, but they took it on because the need was so great. We're going to do everything we can to try to get as much debris, off the beaches, off the ground, off of our impacted coastal areas, and to a safer place. We may not get it all because there's just an unprecedented amount of debris from Helene.
Well, listen, to everyone's credit, I tell you, they have been able to do a massive amount of work in days, what would normally take weeks. So we're thankful for you guys for what you're doing, and we're all just going to hang in there together. So
Absolutely.
David Connor, we'll be talking to you.
Sure. Thank you.
8:37 right now. Tampa officials squashing rumors that water could be shut off ahead of the storm. The city says the Tampa Water Department is gearing up to deliver safe, high-quality water throughout the storm. It's been preparing ahead of Milton by releasing water from the Hillsborough River Reservoir and diverting water into the bypass canal. Staff will be on hand at the water treatment facility throughout the storm, making sure it continues to deliver clean, high-quality drinking water to the service area. They also have multiple backup systems. Residents are still encouraged to have backup water on hand in case service is disrupted in your neighborhood. Their tip, have at least 1 gallon of water on hand per person for a minimum of 3 days. It's been busy on the roads since even before we went on the air this morning as people continue evacuating ahead of Milton.
And the demand is so high. The lines at gas stations have been long, and in some places they've run out. Fox 13's Matthew McClellan is live in Bradenton at a gas station filling up. You found gas?
We did, yeah, and that's part of what we have to do as a field crew out here in order to be able to bring the news to you at home. We got to make sure that our gas tank is topped off, so every chance we get, we've been trying to top off our gas. This is our third station, Laura. We were at a sandbag location. We thought we'd be live from there, kind of showing you those last-minute sandbag operations there, but we thought, hey, let's just take a minute and show folks what the gas station situation looks like. I will tell you, there are locations in Bradenton where we are. This is South Bradenton. It's Cortez Road and Cape Vista Drive, where people are finding gas, but let me just spin the camera around. It's not like a crazy mile-long line, but you just see that people are kind of backing up. They see that there's a supply here. Unlike some other places, we stopped at a Shell station, a Marathon station. Both of those, despite what Gas Buddy told us, both of those were out of gas. So this one is still in supply for some time. And the thing that really I want to convey to our viewers is that people here, they get the message. They're being urgent, but they're also being kind to each other. We've seen people in conversation. They're waiting patiently to get their gas. Doesn't appear anybody is hoarding, but the other big takeaway being here this morning, Laura, is that most of the people that I've talked to at this gas station, they are not planning on evacuating. So the filling up of the gas tanks, they're not hopping on I-75 and trying to go north. They know that it's gridlocked. They don't want to deal with those headaches. So a lot of these folks are not in that immediate evacuation zone, and so they're okay to stay. So what we're seeing here is a lot of people filling up their extra containers, maybe just topping off their gas tanks, not sure when their next opportunity to get gasoline is going to be. Let me take you to a little of what we heard from Gordy Rohrer, who's a longtime Bradenton resident out of the evacuation zone.
I think the storm we just had, is scaring everybody, and stuff. People are getting prepared a lot more, putting shutters up and all that stuff. So in our neighborhood, they're serious about the storm.
And again, that is what we're seeing right now. There's a sense of urgency and of taking this seriously, but for those folks out of the evacuation zone, maybe a little less concerned. Now, if you're in zones levels A, B, or C, as we've been discussing, that's where you're going to have problems, and that's why you're ordered to evacuate. Now, you may be wondering why we've been showing you pictures of Gas Buddy. It is because that's what we were checking. They're not paying me to say this. That is the tool that we use to try to find gas. Maybe you'll have luck if you're in this area as well, but I will warn you, some of the locations that are indicated as having gas do not in fact have gas. So there's folks are urging everyone not to hoard, but to just take what you need and then move on. So folks really do seem to have an understanding here that either they need to get out or that they need to get what they need and go to their house and take cover. So that's kind of what we're seeing here in South Bradenton. I know we've got several hours left until this really gets kind of hairy for us, but we're going to be keeping an eye on it. We may go back to the sandbag site and see what we find there, but we're in full-on prep mode.
Yes, we are, and we have crews everywhere. We'll be with y'all every step of the way. All right, Matt, thank you.
And take a look at this video from of Hurricane Milton near Mexico. It skirted the northern edge of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula on Monday, bringing plenty of strong winds and rain. This was the scene in Campeche. Dozens of tourists and residents had to evacuate to a nearby island using a ferry. Can I elaborate one thing?
Yes, of course. Yes.
What Matt just said, because we need to stress, and because the governor was stressing this earlier, yes, your gas station may be out of gas right now, but there's plenty of fuel in this state, and they are refilling those tanks as quickly as they can. And
get your tanks full. Get some cash, too. Go to the ATM, because listen.
That's a biggie.
We've been speaking a lot about this storm surge and the incredible 10 to 15-foot storm surge that somebody's going to have to contend with. But for most of us, this is a huge wind event. A wind event we haven't seen around here in a very long time. Winds gusting to over 100 miles per hour. We're going to lose power. We're going to lose a lot of power. So understand that you may not have power for a few days. So you're going to have to, again, understand that and plan for that.
Let me just
as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Hillsborough County has just announced that school is closed till Friday. at the very earliest. So we've just gotten that advisory now.
Okay, let's talk more about the storm. And as we're getting into the 8, 9 o'clock, it's beginning to, I think, re-intensify. Overnight, it weakened as a result of an eye wall replacement cycle, which is a very normal process in major hurricanes. It creates a newer eye wall, usually a larger eye wall, and it just distributes some of the winds out into the storm. It is a very normal process. It could undergo another one before it makes landfall. And you can start to see the eye beginning to clear out. Here's the Yucatan Peninsula. And of course, here we are there. A little closer up, you can see, look, notice some of the clouds starting to go away now. So reconnaissance flying around inside this storm. My goodness, some of the information that they are getting for us too as well over the past couple of days has been amazing. Notice this northwestern side of the eye wall, some of that convection right now. Let's see if that wraps around or it stays kind of open like that. We'll see. The point is it's regenerating itself. Winds are sitting at about 145 miles per hour. And in the forecast, it is, notice at the beginning, it is forecast to go back to Category 5 today. So if that happens, don't be like, oh my gosh. Listen, it's expected to do that. And then it's expected to start that weakening process as it approaches the coast. As I say that, I said weakening. It's still going to be a major hurricane at landfall very early on Thursday morning. So you could pass around midnight to 2 a.m. on Thursday morning. That's when it's going to make landfall and then head straight across the state. The computer models are locked in. The only question we really can't answer is the exact pinpoint of the landfall, because obviously that's going to make a huge difference into the impacts and the storm surge totals as well. We got hurricane warnings now that go completely across the state. So the East Coast has hurricane warnings now as well. And the storm surge forecast around 10 to 15 feet. So more on this and impacts for all the counties. Let me send it over to Valerie.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And, you know, we are talking about impacts spreading very far inland. As Dave just showed us that latest look at our watches and warnings, this storm is going to cross right across the peninsula. Central parts of the state going to be dealing with some major hurricane force wind impacts along with the heavy rain that's going to come with the track of this storm. So here's a look at our excessive rain outlook. You can see that bright pink color as it includes basically the northern edge of Sarasota up into parts of Manatee, all of Pinellas, Hillsborough, and then kind of stretches across Orlando, Daytona Beach even included in that. So that's kind of the general thinking of where the heaviest rain is going to set up. Of course, that will occur right along, and it actually looks like to the north of the center of circulation. So we anticipate some of the heaviest pockets of rain and rainfall to be slightly to the north of that, where you can see that yellow color there. That's where we're getting up to a foot of rain to be possible. So generally speaking, about 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. And then as we get a bit further south of Tampa Bay, south of where it makes landfall, we're still anticipating high totals, 4 to 8 inches there. So let's go ahead and take it county by county as we look at our expected impacts. We're going to be talking about the potential for wind gusts up to 100 miles per hour here across our Bay Area spots as that storm comes on shore. Storm surge, we're talking 10 to 15 feet, worst case scenario. Rainfall, we already talked about it, about 5 to 10 inches here across the Bay Area. We get just north of us where this is where we could be talking about those rainfall totals slightly higher. And again, these could change if we see the track shift further south. We'll continue to make tweaks as we see necessary. But wind gusts up to 80 miles per hour, storm surge here for Citrus, Pasco, Hernando, 5 to 10 feet. We slide inland where we're still anticipating hurricane force winds, heavy rainfall up to 8 inches, but it's those wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour that is going to be a big concern late Wednesday, but particularly into the early Thursday morning hours. Just south of Tampa Bay, wind gusts possible up to 100 miles per hour, storm surge in the range of 10 to 15 feet there. We're going to go ahead and jump right into a look at your forecast for today as we plan on these ongoing rain showers to be possible. Looks like our maps are kind of frozen on me there, so we'll have more details to come, but I'm going to send it off to Jen here with a check on traffic this morning.
Yeah, and we've been following evacuation routes all morning long since the start of Good Day Tampa Bay. We were following heavy traffic at 4 a.m. along I-75 and I-4. We can switch over to the live cameras. You can see that I-4 is jammed this morning. No, not westbound along I-4 like we're usually saying. It's the eastbound lanes along I-4. This is in the area of County Road 532, and the heavy traffic begins right around County Line Road. in Polk County. Now, I-75, it was jammed at 4 o'clock this morning in this area. No longer the case. People are heeding the warnings, and they got an early start on their evacuation routes. Tolls are suspended by order of the governor. That means if you're using the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, the Selman, the Veterans, whatever toll road that you typically use or using to get out of town, those tolls are suspended. Also, emergency shoulder use is in place eastbound along I-4 from I-75 to Champions Gate, as well as northbound 75 from I-4 to I-10. Free Uber rides are available to get you to a shelter if you use the promo code Milton Relief. Heart buses, they're giving free rides to shelters until they suspend their service at 8 p.m. PSTA giving free rides to shelters until 7 p.m. when service is suspended there. And if you've driven over the Howard Franklin Bridge the past few days, you may have noticed something missing: the cranes. FDOT has put a pause on the new overpass project due to Helene approaching our area, and Helene and Milton. All the cranes were moved to a barge island and secured along with all the heavy equipment used in the project. The cranes are currently all pointed straight up to the sky. Stay with us. More Good Day Tampa Bay coming up after the break.
On the next Dinner Diaz, how to stock your fridge and pantry for the coming storm, plus easy recipes for cooking it all. Today at 1 on Fox 13.
Welcome back. A major threat we face with Hurricane Milton is widespread and prolonged power outages.
Our local utility companies have been preparing, and they're getting support from out-of-state line people ready to get to work as soon as the storm passes. Charlie, live in Pinellas County this morning with the folks from Duke Energy. Good morning.
That's right, Russell. In fact, I'm at an undisclosed location. We don't tell you exactly where we are because of the sensitivity of where we are, but they are certainly prepared here. Duke Energy Florida, and I'm going to read it off the wall. We're at the Distribution Control Center. Melissa Satius is the president of Duke Energy Florida, and let's explain what's happening here, which is why this is such a sensitive space.
Sure. Good morning. So the Distribution Control Center is really kind of the heartbeat of our system. From this location, 24 hours a day, this is where our team dispatches calls, trucks, monitors the system, can see where outages are occurring, performance of important facilities like substations. So truly the heartbeat.
You and your staff and your crews have been working nonstop, obviously, since Helene. In fact, I heard that just a few days ago you got all of the Barrier Islands power back on. You hardly have a moment to pop a bottle of champagne and celebrate that moment, because here comes Hurricane Milton, and you know widespread outages are a foregone conclusion.
Yes, we completed the restoration on the Barrier Islands on Saturday, met all the estimated times of restoration. Sunday morning, I woke up to a text message from our emergency management director saying this storm in the system in the Gulf is looking dangerous. So
unfathomable, right?
we slid right into the restoration and preparedness plan for what became Milton very quickly.
How do you prepare? Because we don't know where the power might go out. I mean, I guess you follow the track. You listen to. You have a meteorologist yourself on staff here.
We do.
How do you prepare? How do you get ready for this?
So we prepare all year long. A Category 5 hurricane, though, is kind of your worst case tabletop scenario. But the preparation we do all year allows us to kind of check and adjust, and we've had to do a lot of that. So first and foremost, we need to ensure that our employees have a safe plan for themselves and their families, and then also the communication that we start long before with our customers to advise them on how to prepare, really encouraging them to heed evacuation orders, monitoring that type of communication. And then concurrent to all that, we're working with other utilities. We're identifying where we're going to get resources from. We're talking internally to our other sister states that Duke Energy serves. So, for example, we have crews that are coming from Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio that are Duke Energy employees. So they're coming, but we're also talking across the industry, because we will bring resources, line personnel from across the country.
Thank you for the update, Melissa. Really appreciate it. Russell, they're doing what the rest of us are doing. They're preparing the best they can, bracing the best they can, because they know it's going to be a tough one to get through. On the other side of it, it's all going to be about patience and just waiting, because they will be out in force, but it will take time.
Yeah. Okay. Charlie, thanks.
Okay.
Something to keep in mind as a Hurricane Milton approaches, protecting the health of yourself and your family.
Yeah, and we have a few tips to help with that right now. The American Lung Association in Florida says it is especially important for the nearly 500,000 Tampa Bay residents who are living with a chronic lung disease like asthma, COPD, and lung cancer. First, make sure you have power backup for any breathing devices in case the power goes out. Another tip, if you do lose power, never cook indoors with portable gasoline or diesel-powered generators, gas stoves, charcoal grills, portable camping stoves, or any other device. Those produce carbon monoxide that can kill you if it builds up indoors. Also, it's not uncommon for people to develop new health problems following a natural disaster. So be aware of any breathing problems or dizziness. Wear a mask if you need to, and get immediate emergency medical help if your fingernails or your lips are turning blue. The American Lung Association has a lung helpline at 1-800-LUNG-USA. It's staffed by nurses and respiratory therapists to answer any questions you might have.
And we know the storm is taking an emotional toll on all of us, especially right on the heels of Helene. But the folks at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay are here to help. They say it's important to stay calm, to take deep breaths, and remember to be kind to each other. They will be at their facility throughout the storm, providing help to those who need it 24 hours a day. Just call 211. And if you're in a major crisis or you're having thoughts of suicide, dial 988. We'll be right back.